who should be able to afford and use and pay for it. And we should do that.
Also coming up, an urgent need to address the decline in crude oil production. We hear from Chairman of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee.
We mentioned that sustainable development because from 2017 coming, you could see there's a decline.
23 qualitative and quantitative indicators from highly respected sources and measures the state of peace across 3 domains: the level of societal safety and security, the extent of ongoing domestic and international conflicts, and the degree of militarization. Threats such as armed robbery incidents, highway robberies, attacks on journalists, political violence, the land guard menace, and other perceptions have been attributed to Ghana's decline. Well, how did we get here? I've been joined by Albert Yelyang. He's the National Network Coordinator for the West Africa Network for Peace Building, WANEP. He joins me via Zoom. Mr. Yelyang, Ghana has dropped from the most peaceful country in West Africa and also dropped to 4th from being the number 2 peaceful country in Africa. How does this decline come across to you? Kindly unmute for me, Mr. Yelyang. Hello, Mr. Yelyang. Do we still have Mr. Yelyang on Zoom? Right, so we're trying to get Mr. Yelyang's network fixed. And as great. Good to have you, Mr. Yelyang. I was asking you about how you feel that Ghana is no longer the most peaceful country in West Africa and also has dropped from number 2 to number 4 as the 2nd most peaceful country in Africa.
If you look at the data, what the Global Institute of Economics and Peace, has analyzed, and the indices, and the areas where we have fallen, these are also indices that in country there have been reports on. And so you would understand that they are taking data from what is out there in the public domain and probably also having conversations with the stakeholders, as far as those indices are concerned. You look at the area of conflict. Yes, one would say that there is some stability, in the country, but there are many of them that are unresolved. And if you look at, for instance, Boko conflict, it is something that is on the radar almost every week. I mean, there is something to report about it, and if that data is captured by the Institute of Economics and Peace, and including other areas like Doba Kandiga, which was also on the radar now, there are some attempts also to bring that conflict to a certain stability. And across the entire country, there are pockets of conflicts that have not been resolved. Some of them, I would say, they are just, stable. They have been managed to some extent. You also look at the issue of armed robbery. There has been a number of them, including robbery of very key properties. For instance, the attacks on the policeman recently, is one of them that can give an indication that something else in terms of highway robberies and robberies at strategic locations is taking place. Now, the issue of journalists has been on the radar for some time now. How journalists are treated, how they are prevented from doing certain things, and how it's like they are being targeted. All this is information that is in the public domain, and the Institute of Economics and Peace definitely will capture that. Let's not forget that these are trends that are built over time. So they capture the trend data over time, and then to give do their analysis.
So Yelyang, I'll have you hold 1 minute for me because we're about to speak.
Excellency John Dramani Mahama, I see once and perhaps future running mate, The African High Union representative for silencing the guns, the Honorable Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambas, Chief of Staff in the Office of the President, the Deputy Minister for Education and Member of Parliament for Abuakwa North, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, dignitaries, the non traditional rulers, the family of Professor which of our languages it is. That every time an elder dies, a library burns with him. Every time an elder dies, a library burns with him. You do not need to know or understand whichever of our languages this saying originated from to understand exactly what is meant. Dies. Some amount of stored knowledge disappears with him, whose life we're gathered here to celebrate this morning. Exceptional woman, knowledgeable teacher, famous poet, public servant, flawless storyteller, outstanding writer. She possessed an excellent mastery of the English language. Like many, had heard about the news of the death of Ama Ata Edu with great sadness and sorrow. The community of writers has lost one of its greatest members, one who will be extremely at Ghana's premier university, the University of Friendly and Productive Relations. And expressed so many of the feelings, the University of Friendly and Productive Relations. And expressed so many of the feelings
to the highest tune.
Yes, Lamo. Sakebenya Kadia Cassessmas Bia, come met Sims when Mama Yetins when ma a boy, papa,
government should do something about this as soon as possible. At least after every 6 months, they should drain the stream for us.
Yes, Rabbi say, more.
Compounds like this are unable to survive anytime there is a downpour. Walls break down, rooms get flooded, leaving residents helpless. For Joy News, my name is Nana Boache Dankwayadum, Kumase.
We're still live on Joy News. Next, we'll take a break and we'll return. There is more.
Score HD, the new exciting football channel, is now available only on HD Plus and brings you football from around the world. Watch Sadio Mane and Daniel Kufitre in the top weekly match of the Bundesliga 1 and DFB Cup, Primera Liga, Copa de la Liga Profesional. See Ronaldo in the Saudi Pro League, as well as daily sports news every other hour. Also, get updated on Messi and Mbappe on PSG TV and many more. Feely on HD Plus channel 151. Agronaede, HD Plus, the Feely experience.
We've had news file over the weekend, and an interesting part of the conversation focused.
Oh no, we are out of range.
Oh, don't worry, Daddy. I have Alexa in my bag.
Alex, what?
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs.
On air. And we are back like we never lost signal.
Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
Hello, welcome to Business. My name is Dao Kwao. The Bank of Ghana says the delay in publishing its financial accounts is as a result of the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. Deputy Ranking Member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Isaac Adongo, had criticized the Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, of failing to file financial statements of banks for almost 6 months now. Take a listen.
We have been waiting to receive the gazetting and the publication of the Bank of Ghana's own financial statements, which by law should have been published by the end of April of the year. We are now half a year through the year, and all the banks have complied with the filing of their returns to the Bank of Ghana. Those reports include what we call the long form reports, which are very detailed, audited reports of the banks, breaking down every single item on the balance sheet of the banks in order that we can see the bank for who it is. But Bank of Ghana is not able to comply with its own law to do the very things that the other banks are doing. The bank has not filed and published its financial statements. Every 15 days, the Bank of Ghana is supposed to gazette its assets and liabilities. And at the end of the month, they are supposed to further file its assets and liabilities. It's been almost 6 months now. The Bank of Ghana is in clear violations of these provisions. You would have noticed that over the last 2-3 years, the Bank of Ghana has been running away from the Finance Committee of Parliament. We have been inviting him to appear before us and speak to its reports, initially from the Finance Committee of Parliament. We have been inviting him to appear before us and speak to its reports, initially